For the long closed session, we had some complicated issues that we needed to resolve. I need a motion to return to open session.
So moved.
Second.
I need a motion to certify closed session.
I'm sorry, Mr. Ivers. We need a vote on that motion,
Oh, I'm sorry,
please.
you're right.
Thank you very much.
I have a second, and we have a roll call vote.
There we go. We got a little caught up there. Ms. Albritton?
Aye.
Ms. Bond?
Abstain for I wasn't present.
Ms. Foster?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Mr. Ivers?
Yes.
Ms. Woolsey?
Yes.
Thank you.
Now, I need a motion to certify closed session that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered. Have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Albritton?
Aye.
Ms. Bond?
Abstain for I was not present.
Ms. Foster?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Mr. Ivers?
Yes.
Ms. Woolsey?
Yes.
And we have three actions coming out of closed session. Ms. Albritton?
I move that we long-term suspend student A through today and that he will have alternative school placement.
Second.
All those in favor? Is this roll call?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Ms. Albritton?
Aye.
Ms. Bond?
Abstain.
Ms. Foster?
No.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Mr. Ivers?
Yes.
Ms. Woolsey?
No.
Ms.
That-
Fa-
That motion failed.
Ar-
The motion failed.
No,
No,
it was 3-2.
3-2. You forgot me. I think.
The abstention? The abstention?
There was no.
Yes. Then it failed. The abstention
Because it's 3-3.
makes it 3-3. The motion
Three.
failed.
Oh, it's 3-2.
No,
She had
Ms. Bond had to abstain.
yes. Redo the,
So,
Hmm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Has to be a majority to pass.
She may be right. Then what do we do?
the no votes were Ms. Woolsey and Ms. Foster. The other three were yes votes.
okay.
Okay? Ms. Franklin? I'm sorry, Ms. Foster?
I move we expel student B from Montgomery County Public Schools.
Second.
Ms.
Roll call.
Albritton?
Aye.
Ms. Bond?
Abstain.
Ms. Foster?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Mr. Ivers?
Yes.
Ms. Woolsey?
Yes.
Now, Ms. Franklin.
I move that we expel a student from Montgomery County Schools.
Student C.
Second.
Ms. Albritton?
Aye.
Ms. Bond?
Abstain.
Ms. Foster?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Mr. Ivers?
Yes.
Ms. Woolsey?
Yes.
Okay, moving on. Public address. At this time, at each of our regular scheduled meetings, the school board sets aside 30 minutes for citizens to address the board about issues pertaining to public education in Montgomery County. Each speaker is allotted 3 minutes to speak. The screens throughout the room and on the laptop will indicate when the speaker has 30 seconds remaining and when three minutes has passed. Since there are no individuals who have signed up to speak, do I have anyone in the audience who wishes to address the board? Okay. Public address is closed. Consent items. If there's anything to be pulled from the consent agenda, then speak now. Personnel report. Do I have a motion to adopt the personnel report?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Payment of the bills. Do I have a motion to pay the bills?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of paying the bills?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Superintendent's reports, recommendations, and announcements. Ms. Blackburn.
Thank you, Mr. Albers. First of all, by your actions this evening, you have appointed Mr. Keith or Dr. Keith Rowland as a half-time principal for the New River Valley Detention Center. Under superintendent's items this evening, our first one is a grant proposal for project graduation academic year 2013-2014. Each year, Montgomery County Public Schools has applied for state funds to operate a summer academy to assist students in staying on track to graduate. The grant application program components remain the same, but we are requesting a substantial increase in funds since we have 3 high schools that are facing accreditation challenges, including achievement in mathematics and continuing improvement in graduation rate. I recommend your approval of this grant.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Just hope we get it.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Your second item this evening is a high-stakes testing resolution. The Virginia Accountability Plan requires that students in grades 3 through 11 take 34 standardized tests. The number significantly exceeds that required by the Federal Accountability Plan. Montgomery County Public Schools passed a resolution in August 2012 asking the legislature to revisit the Virginia SOL program and focus on a new accountability system that has a more balanced approach to student assessment. This has not occurred. The legislature will soon reconvene. 35 school divisions of the over 130 in Virginia have already adopted a comparable resolution this year. A resolution requesting the Assembly to create a new accountability system this year is provided for the board's consideration.
And if you see the resolution is a addendum on your screen. Do I have a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
What's the addendum? I missed something.
It was the resolution, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Any discussion?
No. Wish it would work.
Yeah, I think it's great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving on.
Okay. Next item for this evening is a request for funds for school security equipment. Let me get it so I can read it. Improvement in security equipment at all Montgomery County Public Schools is and has been a priority of this school board and superintendent. The state has provided school divisions with an opportunity to apply for grant funding, but funds will be awarded over a 4-year period. Therefore, not every school may be addressed during this school year. This year, Montgomery County Public Schools applied for $100,000 from the state grant program and received $60,000 that has been designated for Christiansburg Elementary School, Christiansburg Primary School, Christiansburg High School, and Harding Elementary Schools. Funds were also requested for Falling Branch Elementary School, but they were not approved, largely due to the funding criteria, age of school. Regardless, Falling Branch Elementary School security equipment was purchased through the required district matching funds clause in this grant. Installation at the 4 grant-funded schools is either complete or in process. A chart is attached to your agenda item which shows the status of security equipment not only at those that are currently being funded through a grant, but for every school in Montgomery County. Montgomery County Public Schools will continue to make application each year for the state grant funds. However, installing the core basic security equipment upgrades at every school immediately is a reasonable and prudent action to take. The core security system improvements include a keyless entry system for primary entrances and exits, audio-video door entry systems, more fondly known as the A-phone, and monitoring improvements for other building areas as needed. The estimated cost to complete the installation of core systems at all remaining schools is $388,000, with an average cost of $26,000 per school. Future grant funds will be applied for and may be used to address other security equipment needs, including additional door hardware improvements, exterior lighting, strategic placement of additional keyless systems. The school board is asked tonight to approve a request this evening to the Board of Supervisors for $388,000 to complete core security system installations at all Montgomery County schools.
Do I have a motion to approve the request for funds?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, discussion.
These funds, can they not be pulled from the funds that the supervisors have already allotted for us for capital?
The funds that they have are earmarked in a capital reserve fund. So in order to access that source, the supervisors would have to release the money. It's not been transferred, it's in a reserve. So they could get it from there, or they could get it from another source if they chose.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I have a question. On the addendum, security upgrade status and work plan. Do you have that up? Could you explain down below the blue headings, and there's a lot of schools with nuns by them. Could you explain that?
That means they have none of these items at this time.
Okay.
It's like a list. The chart shows you the number of portable classrooms that are at each school, and in the grant cycle, schools with portables receive some priority ranking. The second column is the audio-video door entry system, which is your A-phone.
Mm-hmm.
The next column is a keyless entry system, which is the card swipe that would accompany that for faculty staff to have.
Okay.
The next one is the security camera and monitors. We've looked at the school layouts, and in some places we need to add additional cameras, but in all of them we're adding the big monitor as you walk in so that people can see they are being observed as they come into the building. And the final column tells you whether I have a funding source for the equipment for this school or not. And so you see I've funded the ones Falling Branch through CHS,
Right.
and I have no funds available for the remaining schools on the list.
The keyless entry at Falling Branch, wasn't that tested yesterday, the day before, recently?
I mean, it's been installed since the first day of school.
But I mean, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I thought there was a school that was just working on that.
It's in process at Christiansburg Elementary School and Harding Elementary School.
But maybe it's Harding, I'm thinking.
Mhm.
Is it being used at Harding yet?
No, go ahead.
No.
Go ahead.
It's not, at Falling Branch is where it's being used.
Okay.
And I had the opportunity to see it yesterday, all these different things at Falling Branch, and I was very impressed, and the staff seemed to be embracing it and very thankful that they have it. And they said the parents are very thankful and patient, and it seems like they've had no technical glitches from day one either, except for trying to get the polling stuff through the door, but I think they figured that out yesterday.
Okay, very good, thank you. Where are we with that?
We have a motion and a second. We need to take a vote.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Next item is Comprehensive Agreement Amendment 4. The Fourth Amendment to the Comprehensive Agreement is necessary in order to reconcile an accounting issue. The Fourth Amendment has been reviewed by legal and determined that it could be appropriately signed by the superintendent since it simply brought the language of the Comprehensive Agreement document into agreement with the intent of all parties. The function of the Fourth Agreement is to deduct payments made by Montgomery County Public Schools to RRMM Architects for design work at AMS and AHS, which took place prior to the commencement of the Comprehensive Agreement Partnership between Branch and RRMM. The amendment is attached for your information. It requires no additional action on the part of the board.
Any questions or comments?
Okay, our next item is our final update before we have our advanced ed visiting team next week. And so I'd ask Dr. Graham if she would come to the podium and tell us where we are.
Good evening, board members, Ms. Blackburn. As Ms. Blackburn said, tonight we will have our final update in preparation for the upcoming Advanced Ed visit. And we have provided a folder for each of you with information that you may want to review prior to the visit. We expect that the team will ask you about your work, what you see as accomplishments, and what you see for the future of Montgomery County Public Schools. As you know, the visiting team will be arriving on Sunday, and Rhonda Baker is going to share a little bit about the schedule with you.
Good evening. We have confirmed the schedule, which is attached to your presentation that you have. Plans are to interview the board members that can attend in groups of 2 at 12:30 on November the 11th. That's on a Monday. We have also set a time for Tuesday at 5:30 at the Hampton Inn for Ms. Franklin. If one other board member prefers that time, please do let us know. Mr. Jones will have a phone interview with 2 members at that time as well. And then we have the exit report on Wednesday, which will be held at the conference room A at the school board office. This is a called board meeting. We are planning at this time to have Mr. Ivers present, Ms. Bond, Ms. Woolsey, Ms. Albritton, Ms. Foster, and Ms. Franklin. And hopefully those people can attend. Thank you.
We feel that we are very well prepared for the visit, and this week we have all staff on Thursday, and we will have our final conversations with principals about the visit, and they'll have a chance to ask any questions that they have. As part of that, and as part of tonight, we will review our continuous improvement goals, which are based on instruction, leadership and communication, and safety and wellness. These align very well with the superintendent's focus areas for this year. And so tonight we have asked our directors to share just 1 or 2 items from each focus area, just as a means of review. So we will begin with Ms. Weaver, and then we'll just follow.
As you know, this year we have a concentrated focus in math and instruction. We've shared for you things that we're going to be working on, such as Math 180, Reflex, and the instructional coaches. We're also excited about our work with the instructional model. This year we're focusing on the engagement portion. We've incorporated professional development and already began our classroom observations. We're excited about what we've done so far and look forward to continue to expanding our work with the model in the future.
Special education is fully supporting and cooperating with the instructional model as well as our focus on engagement. We have implemented scholastic math at the elementary level after doing a pilot last year and monitoring the progress of students with disabilities with that. We've also moved System 44 to the elementary level to complement our Wilson Reading Program for students with disabilities. At the high school, we are collaborating with General Ed in the implementation of Read 180 and Math 180.
Good evening. In human resources, we're focusing on highly qualified staff, which includes developing Aspiring Administrators Academy. I'm sure you guys have seen some of that information. We're striving to engage the staff in professional development that will enhance their leadership capacity. It's one area. The other area is that we're developing new manuals to guide the hiring practices, and we're also developing a volunteer manual for all the volunteers in our schools.
Our technology department is working strongly on the security program that you saw earlier. We also continue to work with the 21st Century Classroom, which when we open Auburn Middle School will complete that cycle of that plan. We're also focused on the instructional model, and we preach engagement with all of the training we do with initiatives like BYOD, Math 180, and other instructional plans.
Good evening. In facilities, we are continuing to update the safety and security. Some of what you heard we talked about earlier today, this evening. And of course, we are continuing to celebrate the opening of Auburn High School and Blacksburg High School. And we continue to do all the work necessary to complete the work at Auburn Middle School. Thank you.
And in the area of management, we have a new organizational structure. We're also emphasizing engagement and division-wide consistency with programs such as social justice and the new instructional model. So in conclusion, we're looking forward to the Advanced Ed visit. We have provided a folder for you again, which includes some information. Wanted to just share some highlights of what each department is doing. We expect that the team will want to know the strengths that you see, and we're looking forward to them telling us what they see as our strengths and how we can move forward for the future. So should you have any questions, please feel free to contact any of us, and we look forward to next week. Thank you.
Any questions?
I do have a question on the parent community stakeholder interviews. How are the parent and community stakeholders being contacted to come for interviews?
I'll let Dr. Graham answer that.
We have invited all the PTA presidents, PTO presidents. We've emailed several people. The Advanced Ed group asked to keep it to about 15 to 20 people, and we now have, I think, 15 that have agreed to come.
We included representatives from Radford, from Virginia Tech, because of our partnerships with them, as well as tried to have a representative group of the demographics in our community.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Rhonda, where are we Monday, 12:30? Where?
Conference room.
A.
Yeah, I thought so.
Not this room, but
No.
over
Right,
on the other side.
right.
Correct.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
we should all just come at 12:30?
Yes, and we are providing lunch because we know some of you are making a quick breakaway from your routine to come and spend the noon hour with us.
Nice, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, and appreciate all the hard work that's gone into getting us to this point. All right. Our next item is employer health insurance options. At the October 1, 2013 regular school board meeting, Montgomery County Public Schools insurance consultant Keith Sharp, who's Vice President for Business Development Officer for McNary Consultant, Consulting presented information to the board on the self-funded health insurance concept and considerations for your information. And Keith is with us again this evening. Based on his recent review of Montgomery County Public Schools' future or previous health insurance experience and the outlook for future costs, Mr. Sharp will provide tonight a review of the self-insurance program, and he supports this as an appropriate option for the board's consideration. As insurance is a complex subject, we're going to also have Mr. Sharp available with us for a couple of days over the next 2 weeks for board members to come in, as many as 2 at a time, and ask specific other questions that you may have or that come to you as you think about the action that you want to take at our November 19th meeting. These meetings may include up to 2 board members, and Ms. Drake will be calling you all to schedule you and offer you opportunities for time slots. It is my intent to recommend that the board consider moving to self-insurance as the method that you use to pay for employee benefits. And that's a separate discussion to what employee benefits are. This is how you pay for them. And so I've got Keith here, and he's anxious to bring us back up to speed again. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Good evening to you all. First, what I'd like to do is maybe just give a quick recap or review of what we talked about last month, just outlining the basic differences between a fully funded plan or fully insured plan, which you currently have, and the move to a self-funded plan. Would like to reiterate, this is funding only, has no impact on the actual benefits that are offered to the employees of the school system, or not necessarily the insurance provider, whether it be with Anthem, which you currently are with, or you should decide to move to someone else. Just focuses on the funding. If you remember, we talked about the advantages and the challenges to each funding method. Under your current fully insured funding method, you pay a predictable premium every month. That's determined by a rate, and the only thing that affects that's the number of employee counts that may fluctuate from one month to the other. There's no additional risk for you in this funding method. You are limited to the liability of the premiums, regardless of how claims may run that month. That risk is transferred to the insurance company. With a self-funded method with catastrophic stop loss, you have the advantage that you can limit your risk for a catastrophic claim with stop loss insurance. You have a cash flow advantage, so that if you have good months and your claims run lower than expected, you get to recoup that savings. There's the advantage to the group when claims run lower. You also, when you switch from a fully funded method to a self-funded method, you're going to have 2 to 3 months where you have very low claims, and so you get to take advantage of that cash flow. Now, we recommend that you take that and you put it into a reserve so that you have that if you should ever decide to return to a fully insured method. You have the ability to pay for that, pay for those run-out claims. You have benefit flexibility. Under a fully insured method, you're limited by some state mandates. With a self-funded method, you have more flexibility in terms of the benefits if you should decide to take advantage of it. You have more detailed claims reports, so you have a better idea of exactly what's going on with your health plan. And then there's some savings in the fact that you don't pay premium tax on the non-fixed items within the cost of the plan. And over a longer period of time, you should have lower cost. You may have a year or two where you may have higher costs than you would under a fully insured plan, but if you look at it over a 5-year period, you should come out ahead. Some of the challenges for a fully insured plan, you have more limited plan designs. You're really limited to what a carrier may offer. You have additional cost because of the state premium tax. You can't take advantage of the cash flow, and there's no benefit for lower than expected claims. A challenge for a self-funded plan is that there are cash flow fluctuations. So you may, from month to month, or maybe you might have a bad year where claims are higher than expected. That could negatively impact you. You're going to fund those reserves when you switch over, and if you should ever leave and go back to a fully insured plan, you need to make sure that you hold on to those reserves and you don't spend them somewhere else, or you could find yourself in a challenge in trying to make that move. You do have additional fiduciary responsibility because you are the plan now. It's not the insurance carrier, but there is liability insurance in place that can cover and limit that responsibility. And it requires a longer-term commitment. Again, if you're going with a self-funded plan, you want to try to look over a 5-year period when you're trying to determine the financial success of that funding method. In looking at the transition of risk, and this is just basically outlining where the savings could be found. One is if you're under a fully insured plan, you have approximately a 2% sales tax, a state tax that you pay. You have premium tax, insurance company profit, and then the claims fluctuation. And that's an additional risk charge that a fully insured plan is charged by an insurance company. So basically, looking at all those components, if they run at expected, and I did an evaluation over the past 4 years, and there's fluctuations from one year to the next, but we feel pretty confident that you're going to see, at least a 4% fixed cost savings, and because your claims have really run fairly well historically, the potential for up to maybe a 6% savings from the claims portion of it. I feel like in looking at the previous 4 years, a 10% savings is not unrealistic. Now, this is historical, and there's a potential that claims could run hot, and you may not have that every year. But based off a historical review, I feel confident that a self-funded plan would benefit Montgomery County Schools. In terms of the recommendation, as I previously said, looking at the past 4 years, that a savings of 10% would be anticipated from changing from a fully insured to a self-funded arrangement. And in consideration of the anticipated savings, it is my recommendation that a self-funded plan be reviewed and implemented for the October 2014 renewal. This recommendation is contingent upon updated claims review. We would want to take a look and have the most recent claims experience so that we can see if there's anything that's come across that could cause us to possibly change that recommendation. The fixed costs that we had provided to us by Anthem, we'd want to confirm that at the renewal in October of 2014. So again, it's contingent on just looking and making sure that the future claims experience has run as it has in the past, and if that's the case, I feel very confident that you'd benefit from going in that direction. And again, that's my recommendation. Any questions?
Of course.
Yes, ma'am.
It says advantages, benefit flexibility question. I have a question mark. What does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
Benefit flexibility and no state mandate. In other words, we would be mandated by the state if we didn't do this?
Yeah, that's a little bit confusing. Yes, ma'am. What that means is when you have an insured contract, you have
insured contract with a company.
Yes, ma'am. A fully insured
like Blue Cross
contract.
or something.
Yes, ma'am. Under a fully insured contract, you have to comply with certain state mandates, and you have basically the insurance company has to file certain benefit provisions with the state. Under a self-funded plan, you have flexibility to operate outside that to a certain extent. You still have to comply with federal law and certain benefit provisions, but you have more flexibility in terms of the benefit design that you want to offer to your employees. Doesn't mean that you have to. It's just if you should decide to modify the benefit plan in any way, you can do it and have more flexibility under a self-funded plan.
Then my other one was the liability insurance for fiduciary responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
How much does that usually run, do you know, for a system our size?
Yeah, Ms. Blackburn, you may be able to answer that better than I. I don't believe it's a huge cost. item. It's an errors and omission type policy, and we can certainly, probably, you may have something in place that we could modify that would cover that.
That's a question we'll put on our list for when we do the additional conversations with you all, and we'll also follow up and put it in your board update.
Thank you.
And do you know, when you say 10%, what that dollar amount is approximately that we would see in savings?
Yeah, based off a current premium, roughly $950,000 per year.
Again, just so everybody knows that that would be your insurance reserve. It wouldn't necessarily mean that you would be able to spend that $950,000 in year one, or not all of it, maybe.
Well, what you'd want to do is two things. First, you would have the claims reserve that you would want to fund in that first 2 to 3 months of the plan where you have no claims coming in at all. That would be one claims reserve that I would, for run-out liability, you should ever switch plans. But as Ms. Blackburn said, I would also take a portion of that savings, because from one year to the next, we may have fluctuations. You may have a nice savings one year, the next year not so much. And again, we try to look and review a self-funded plan in 5-year increments. But based off the past 4 years and how your claims have run, I feel like there's certainly a good potential for savings.
Some examples, we've just gone through, it seems like we've been in an economic downturn for forever. And there are some of our surrounding school divisions that were able to tap into a rather large insurance reserve that they had built up over many years, that they were able to offset and use some of it for some one-time expenditures, because they had more reserve than it appeared necessary to maintain.
One of the biggest reasons that it makes sense, why would you be self-funded? And the larger you are in terms of number of employees, the more sense that it makes, because the claims are more predictable from one year to the next. And where self-funded begins to make sense for most employers is somewhere around a 300 to 400 employee range. You're 11 to 1,200 employees. So it makes a lot of sense to look at it.
Any other questions? Mr. Sharp, thank you.
Okay, thank you much.
So we'll be in touch with you to provide you an opportunity to come in and have additional conversations with Mr. Sharp about self-insurance versus fully insured. And as I indicated earlier, it is my intention to bring you a recommendation that we, as Montgomery County Public Schools, move to a self-funded plan. Next item is item G, and it is a possible policy revision, 7-2.3, and it also has an impact on policy 6-6.2. At the request of the school board, policy 7.2-3 is presented for the board's discussion and consideration. Since it impacts 6-6.2, that policy is also presented to you this evening with changes that would be necessary to support any revision in policy 7-2.3. Input regarding the proposed changes to the attendance policy was solicited from secondary school principals and has been shared with the board. There is no consensus among the principals regarding revision to the policy. The policy on attendance was last reviewed by the board in June of 2011, and therefore it is safe to assume that it's been implemented in its current form at least 2 full school years and the first 9 weeks of the 2013-14 school year. A revised attendance policy is provided and reflects the discussion that the board had in October. The revision would add hospitalization or extended illness, doctor or dental appointments to the list of check-ins and check-outs which do not contribute to the maximum number of absences allowed by the attendance policy. The revision also deletes the language which equates 3 check-ins or check-outs with an absence, since this data may not be electronically tabulated by PowerSchool and requires that schools hand calculate the 3 tardies equal 1 absence or 3 checkouts equal 1 absence already. It retains the ability for the school to deal with excessive check-ins or check-outs and brings the language of Policy 6-6.2 into compliance with Policy 7-2.3. Too many numbers, but anyway, it represents what you asked me to bring you.
Discussion.
I appreciate you're getting the principal's input on it, and it was interesting that there wasn't a consensus.
Any discussion?
This would just need to come back for a second reading.
It is for information this evening.
Can we go ahead and vote on it tonight? Is that an option, or are we not allowed to do that?
It's an option. The motion would need to include waiving the second reading of the policy and then approving it as presented. That would be the motion you would need.
So a motion that this is, say that again, I'm sorry.
The motion would need to be to waive the second reading of the policy. This is considered the first, and then to, assuming you want the policy as presented, to approve the policy as presented.
Well, let me weigh in. As a parent, parents are obligated to see that their children go to school and get the best education available. And that's an obligation. And I'm looking at this policy and I'm thinking, well, if you look at the list of absences that are allowed in the policy, you can see that they are all mandates, so to speak. State mandated testing, school-sponsored field trips, VHSL activities, and so on, bus flights. And this is something that a parent or a student can't control. And I can agree until we get down to the last one, which is hospitalization or extended illness, doctor or dental appointment. It seems to me that if there's an individual who's hospitalized, isn't there a homeschool, not a homeschool, isn't there a...
Homebound
yes,
instruction.
Thank you. Isn't there a homebound instruction that takes place?
Yeah.
There's an application process for seeking homebound
Right, or extended illnesses.
Yeah.
And there's another section in the policy below that talks about a credit review in those situations.
So I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, well, okay, we've got hospitalization and extended illness covered, so that doesn't even need to be in there. Doctor or dental appointments. Now, I raised 4 children, and my philosophy was you get to school, no matter what, you get to school. And that's the way it was, and if we needed to go to a dentist or a doctor or whatever, we did that on our time, not on the school time, because I wanted my kids to value school time, and I wanted them to understand that it's an obligation. So I'm thinking that going to class or going to a dentist is a choice. And I don't think we should be giving these parents and students those choices. I think we should stick with our guns and let everyone know that school is mandatory. It is an obligation. I just feel very strongly about that. And I think that the policy, the way it's set up, is fine. And the blue lines in there, take them out.
Mr. Ivers, I would give you a different parental perspective there. If you're the parent of a child who has to see a specialist, a lot of those specialists only work 9 to 4. And there are no times, like I have to take my child to an asthma doctor. Their appointments are from 9 to 3:30. I have no choice but to pull him out of school or to do it on an early release. But the problem with that is every parent in the world is trying to schedule those appointments on an early release. So there are times that you have to pull your child out of school to see a doctor. If your child broke a tooth last night, you may not want to wait until tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. to take him to see a dentist. So I think there are times that you have to pull your child out to go to a doctor or dentist. I don't think it needs to happen every week.
Well,
And I know what you're saying here, you're giving parents an option to pull them out every week to say that's where they're taking them, when they may or may not be taking them there. But as a parent, there are times you have to pull your child out for those particular reasons.
And I think that the current policy isn't punishing families that require that. It's just asking for a documented absent. And that's not a punishment to the families at all, the way we currently have the policy.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't have a problem
Yeah.
with bringing that back. Actually, when I take my child to the asthma doctor, they say, "Do you need a note for school?"
Yes.
Right.
So I don't have a problem with that.
so are you saying what I'm saying? That the policy is okay the way it is?
The blue, I'm fine with the stuff in the blue. The changes in the blue.
Which,
Which they shall not count against the maximum number of allowances as long as they do have a note. I'm fine with that. But I'm just saying there are times that you do have to do that. So I don't have a problem with the way this is written on page 5. Number J.
But
That's in addition to the current policy.
historically, we haven't had a problem that we know of. I mean, 2 schools seem to find that it was fine, the policy the way it is, or 2 larger schools that have more students in them. And so I think, the fact that there wasn't agreement was very interesting to me, and I don't think we really need to change it this time. I really don't. My kids had to go to, the dentist for theirs, and they made it through fine.
I think it's interesting how our policy says regular class attendance is essential to the education process, and that our goal is 95% or better. And so now we're saying, that we're, for especially looking at the exam exemption policy, we're adding, because of the 9 check-in, check-outs, that is equivalent of 3 more days. So we're allowing kids to be out of the class for now from 6 days to 9 days, and rewarding them for that and then also, adding, as one of our feedbacks that we got from one principal was interesting, saying that students and parents will look for and use any loophole that gets them what they want or they need.
It is today.
And students especially are very smart at working the system, I hear. And I'm curious as to know if this was implemented, like another principal brought up, how would we implement this policy? If a kid has a 10 o'clock appointment, does that mean that they're excused from the entire morning? I think it would be, quote, kind of a nightmare in that main office of especially the very large schools. It's a full-time job of keeping up the way it is now. And, it's interesting how we've had this policy since 2011, and the only reason it was brought up was one school board member admitted that it was for personal reason that he brought it up. And so I really don't see any reason that we need to change this at this time. I would recommend that I don't know what the process is here, but understand if we need to even move forward with this change.
Any other comments? Ms. Franklin?
I made my comments at the last board meeting, and I don't see where there's a real big problem with changing this for doctor and dental appointments, especially if they're going to be bringing a note.
Well,
Not everybody works at the same schedule that some people do or do not work, and doctors and dentists do not make their appointments around school hours, plain and simple. And why should students be penalized for that?
But they're not penalized.
I
don't see the penalty.
They're not excused.
I am concerned about people that take advantage. I hear what you're saying, but I found it very interesting that the principals at our two largest schools seem to think the way we're doing it makes good sense because of, I think, probably control over student activity. And I really think it's going to be very difficult managing without saying more.
No more difficult than marking the student absent without an excuse.
This way, there's a limitation. There are limitations, and I think it's important to have those limitations.
About the student with a chronic illness.
Right.
Who's going to have a lot of appointments.
And I think the school does work with that, as I understand it. That was my
But if
understanding.
our policy says they're not excused, then they're not excused, right?
But we, as I understand it, from my reading, that they work with the family about that.
With certain chronic illnesses, don't they have
Yes.
is it 504, do I have that right,
Yes.
plan?
Yeah.
And so they're excused from some of these things?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure.
Is that true, Brenda? That if they have a chronic illness, they would have a 504 plan?
If they had a chronic illness,
necessarily.
they would have a 504 plan, or they might have an attendance plan. I mean, you know,
Right.
we understand that there are kids
Right.
that have chronic illnesses.
Absolutely.
And if you have a note from a doctor that says that, then we're going to honor the note from the doctor that says that.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Any other comments? Well, I feel strongly about the fact that,
Jamie?
Jamie's got.
I was just going to say, I can't help but wonder if some of the policy, maybe before my time, might have been changed because, you know, I remember when I was young, if a student might have had a perfect attendance and they broke an arm, I remember in one certain instance, the parent would bring them to school and then check them out right after homeroom. And so that's probably why, and they got their perfect attendance because that was really a large thing in that day,
Back
you
then.
know.
Yeah.
And I can't help but wonder if some of that is one of the reasons why we've got things put in to limit because that kind of stuff did happen a lot. And all they were there was for homeroom and then they got it. And I know a couple instances that happened. So that's the only thing I kind of think of. Granted, you know,
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's
Wrong,
why I think-
right, it is what it is. And
Yeah,
I think you do have to be careful for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's
I think
my concern.
the language is actually there to encourage folks to try to take care of medical and doctor appointments
Right.
when it doesn't interfere with the school day. Not that it always requires it, because sometimes you're going to have to go during the school day. And if you have to go during the school day, then you go during the school day. The way it's written is it says 3 equals a day of absence. So you'd have to have, let's see, 3 times what? To have 9 days of absence in the time.
3 times 6 periods.
Yeah, you'd have to have a bunch
times
of
6
check-ins.
times 3,
To
yeah.
be in any kind of
Exactly.
absence trouble.
Exactly.
But the principals, basically, you got their feedback.
Yes.
There was a couple who objected, maybe one who objected strenuously. The others indicated that they would work with the policy, regardless of how it's written. So it's your call.
I'd like to move that we make no change to this policy.
Can't do that.
she needs to do another motion first. What is that motion she needs to do? To bring this to a vote.
To waive the second reading of the policy.
I move that we waive the second reading of this policy, both policies.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on that?
Yeah, I believe since Mr. Jones was the one who brought this up, that it would not be right for him not to be able to have a word on this before it came to a vote.
I do agree with that.
All right. I would withhold my second. That's fair enough.
So there's no second. I just don't want to make education a consumer choice.
Exactly.
And that's, you hit it perfectly. When you've got students who are injured, who are coming into school to get there and then leaving, and what's happening the rest of the day? They're at Walmart, or where are they? I don't know. Anyway, it's important to me.
What, James?
I was going to say, I didn't even mean it that way. I just meant.
I understand.
still,
I
yeah,
added that.
Yeah.
I added that. It's important to me that every parent in this county and every student in this county understands how important education is. And if we start opening up Pandora's box, which this could be the start, and expand the policy so it takes care of this segment of the population, this segment, and this segment. And by the way, those segments are very, very small. Ms. Foster, I think you'll agree that the situation you're talking about is probably a handful of parents in the county. And I'm not saying that it's not legitimate and it's not important, but I think that to change a complete policy to accommodate a few people is wrong. I think the accommodation can come with the individual school working with that parent, regardless of policy. I think that can happen. And I just don't want our school and our education to become a consumer choice between, well, slow day today, I think I'll get you to the dentist instead of going to school. That's a choice, and I don't think that's a right choice.
And I feel strongly that, I read the issues, and people today take advantage in ways that maybe they didn't in my day, maybe they did. But I really don't want to open up that possibility, because our teachers then have even more on them, our administration has more on them, and I think things have been working, and I think they can continue to work with the policy that we have. I really do.
I'll bring the policy back for the board's consideration at the next meeting then, since there's not agreement otherwise.
Good discussion, thank you.
The next item I have are your calendars for November. You have a fine arts calendar and a regular November calendar. That concludes my agenda.
Thank you, Ms. Blackburn.
Thank you.
Unfinished business. Anyone have any unfinished business? New business.
I would like to add one. The new system, we have Power School for parents and teachers. Yeah, I have an issue with that. The old system, we had Portal. When you saw a student's grade, you also saw the numeric value. Power School does not give you that. So if you see an A, you don't know if it's a 91, 100, or whatever. So as a parent, it's hard for me to gauge, where the student is. Are they at the top of that number, the bottom of the number? The only way I can do that is take that and port it to Excel and then sit there and figure it out myself. So do we have any plans of adding that feature? Is that a feature that's possible?
Harvey?
It is, because at some schools it has the percentage and some it doesn't. So I don't understand why it's different.
And is that something that other parents are complaining about, or?
No.
Okay.
Power School, first of all, was not a choice. Power School was required as a transition because they bought out our previous vendor. And therefore, the product changed without choice. I don't know about numerical values because nobody's complained to me. I've had some complaints about some access issues that we've been working with because it is a new product, but I don't know about the numerical value.
I think
concern.
what you're dealing with is simply a configuration. I'll have it checked out because I'm hearing different things. I'm not a real expert on that. So
Configuration is in a parent configuration or a school?
the parent has quite a bit of control.
It's the schools, I believe,
I
because
believe it's the school too, because
So
I've heard different things from different schools.
teacher preference is what it is. So I'll look into
Maybe we
that.
should set a standard then.
Okay.
Yes, I agree with that.
We'll research that and get it back to you on the board update.
And apparently also in elementary school, you can only pick one teacher, like if they float from morning to afternoon, you can only pick one teacher for the day. You can pick a separate music teacher, a separate art teacher, like the specialties, you can pick a separate teacher. But as far as students who have one teacher in the morning, one in the afternoon, you can only pick one teacher. Or at least that's what I'm being told. So that's something else we need to look at.
Okay. We'll be in contact.
Any other new business? Announcements and information.
I would like to thank the school system for letting us use our buildings for elections. I really enjoyed Blacksburg High School homecoming. The spirit was really great. And I adored and loved going to the talent shows at both Blacksburg High School and Christiansburg High School. And I appreciate knowing what's going on. Thank you, Brenda, for having them share what's going on at the schools beside the athletics. I took a young lady with me to both of the talent shows, and she was a fourth grader at Bellevue, and she really loved them. And I'm hoping it'll give her hope for what she'll do on stage.
I think the final round is at Blacksburg High School,
Yes.
maybe the
28?
20, it's that weekend before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
23rd, maybe.
Yeah.
Is that the day?
Yeah. I'm gonna be out
Saturday.
of
So
town,
it should
really,
be
so-
very, very good. I
I
think all of our
recommend-
high schools are involved.
Yeah, it's awesome. They were just fabulous.
Okay. Agenda preparation, upcoming school board meetings, and we have a full page of them. November 13th, 12:30, we're here, next door. The 19th, school board meeting.
You'd notice that under the 19th, you have your 2014 legislative priorities.
Yes.
So if anyone has input for me to try to prepare you a draft, if you would send it to me or give me a call, that would be
I noticed that
appreciated.
Mr. Jones had already done that, but hadn't he also? Or was he happy with what he saw? I can't remember. Anyway, yes, we'll do that.
He had one suggestion, something about composite index.
Yeah, that's right. December 3rd, budget update, and the conference report from the VSBA, resolution for backpack initiative, and calendar of activities. I'm losing. And then December 10th is the dinner with the supervisors. That's at 6 o'clock. Dinner, meeting at 7.
And again, anything
it's-
that you'd like on the agenda, if you
It's
would.
at Cross Point.
Yes.
Okay, and then December 17th, reception at 6:30, seniors of the month. Board member recognition. Okay. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry, is there a second?
Oh, yeah, there was.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye, aye, aye.
Thank you.
Brenda.